Hey, what's up, everybody? My name's Nobody, and today I'm going to be breaking down my track, Don't Understand. So the track starts off with this little section right here. Alright. So the thing that you're going to notice right off the bat is this vocal right here that I have taken and pitched down, and of course fitted to the tempo and everything. That is the same vocal that you hear throughout the song that is, of course, pitched regularly. Well, not the same vocal. It's a different vocal from the same, I do believe, or I assume it's from the same recording session as the other one. So it's related to the other one, but I got a different set of lyrics than the rest of the song does. Which is, of course, why I picked it. I didn't want the same lyrics throughout the entire song. So I just did these first 8 bars of intro into what you're going to hear for the rest to kind of get you prepared. So, of course, here's the vocals that are pitched down. So I got lots of processing stuff. This is without processing. So you can see it's a little bit crunchy. If you go through there and you do all the processing, or you turn off all the processing. So let's look at what we've got on there first. Of course, we've got a couple things. We've got a compressor right here, taming the peaks a little bit, because you can see this vocal is pretty evenly recorded, but you've got sections like right here where you got like a little peak. You could tell that more apparently when you're a little bit further out. But you've got peaks. So I did a compressor. And on top of that, a Fruity Soft Clipper, which is just a soft type of limiting. Added some delay on there and reverb. The reverb really put it back into the space, which is exactly what I wanted. We've got a couple EQs going on right here. First EQ is on the left, second EQ is on the right. So what I do with my EQs is the first one right here on the left, the first one in the chain is taking out the low end, taking out any frequencies that I don't want, and the second one is shaping the sound. So here's the first one on. And then here's the second EQ on. Giving you a telephone effect, and then of course I just have an ozone imager right here, putting it more towards the front of the stereo field rather than the left and right sides. So that's all we got there, and then of course what we're doing with that is I'm taking the exact same vocal. I don't know if this is similar. Yeah, so it's just the same processing. I'm just creating a little bit of ear candy, some vocal throws from spliced up, chopped up pieces of the vocals. So here's your first one that you're going to hear. I have that panned a little bit to the left, so it's not just all in the center. It's giving you a little bit of stereo. So first one, here's the second piece right here. Now this one is significantly quieter and panned to the right side. Just a little bit of variance between the pan to the left, pan to the right. And then this one right here is pan to the left again. But this slowly, when I turn on this automation right here for the volume, it slowly, the volume, it makes it a little bit softer as it goes down. And then also, yeah, I think that's all the process that I did. So it's kind of hard to hear when you're not listening, but I add some effects to it. So it's like a delay that I put in myself. So this is with it. I should probably start it back here. All right, that's with it. Now this is without it. It's very subtle, but you know, I like the effect on it. Now, next thing you'll hear more prominently is this static, not static, but like lo-fi crackle that I put in. you know, it might help to unmute everything. There we go. Now you'll see, you're like, oh, why is it chopped? Like, why isn't it just all the way through just a sample? Well, you can hear in the sample, you can hear certain clicks where the peaks are a little bit higher. There you go. You see those clicks? I chopped it so that it was going in the rhythm, so it's going 1 and 1. So I just wanted that rhythm going for the vocals, with the vocals behind it. And of course, the processing on this really isn't much. I'm literally just putting some lo-fi on it to give it a little bit more high end, and then putting it way more in the front of the field so it can fall on top of the vocals, kind of. Yeah, so that's really all there is in the beginning. You've got this little like clave. I don't want to call it clave, but it's kind of similar to that. It's just something in the background. I've just got some delay, EQ, reverb. The EQ is just the first one is accenting peaks that I want that are bringing out the pitch of the sound. And then of course I got something else putting in like a telephone. Not really a telephone, but I just wanted the high end, not the low end. And even there, you can hear that I put it more in the back by cutting out a little bit of the high end, so I low pass it a little bit. Not low pass, but cut the highs. And then that reverb I was talking about. So. And if you'll notice, I have that on beat 2 of every beat. So instead of putting it on beat 1, so it's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. It's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. For anybody that's more into the music theory and kind of timing, I thought it went better on an offbeat rather than a downbeat. I wanted to, I guess, kind of blur the lines between what the tempo was right here. I didn't want everything to fall on the offbeat because then it can just feel like it's trudging along, in my opinion. And then what you'll hear further than that is all of these things right here. This is just a little bit of like intro impact type stuff. Well, let's turn on the, yeah. So I got this little bass part right here. That's just a sample that I've turned down to not be way too loud. This right here, which is my own personal sample that I have that's just reversed, called Alien Chatter. So reversed, that's what it sounds like. So yeah, with the actual sample, how it is regularly, it's just this. Well, okay. Does it not want to? Wait. Yeah, that's just what the sample is on its own. So that's that. A little bit of that cut. I cut the end of it there when it was reversed. Added in the volume. This is just a white noise down riser. Yeah, so there you go. The intro was a little bit more in depth than I wanted it to be, but I guess that does. And of course, I've automated the reverb to slowly be going out. So I want the wet level on the reverb to lessen right here, going into where the impact of the song comes in. I want it to get more towards the center field instead of being stereo, so it kind of surprises you when everything gets more stereo right here. That's something people usually use for the drops. And then right here, going into the next section, I used a frequency shifter on the vocal that's coming in. So this is the vocal that's coming in. There you go. And then I use this frequency shifter and I cut the volume right there because I like volume cuts where just everything cuts out and then it comes back in. Well, apparently that's not where I cut the volume. It's one of these. There it is. Yeah, so I cut the volume right there. Use a frequency shifter to shift it down so like it was falling in pitch. And then let's go to the next section. So this is the section. I'll play a little bit of a snippet of it. let's look at the drums here. All right, so drums aren't anything too special. Oh well, there we go. Got a little bit of tight drum kit here. Hi-hats are kind of in the background. Got some reverb on them to fill some space. That's about it. What's happening with the kick and the snare right here is the kick's got saturation on it. What I'd like to do to my snare is I turned the gain down just a little bit because the snare was kind of clipping, or it was a little bit too loud for my liking. Cut the low end, boosted the low mids where you hit the thump of the snare. This right here is just a very small cut. Added this right here for some presence into the snare. This is around the 1000 hertz range and the 2300 hertz range, and I very slightly added a high shelf towards the I think that's the 10k range. Of course, after I do that, I like to add some saturation to it so you can really hear that thump come through on the snare. So let me get that. Actually, let me get a snare right here so you can kind of hear it. It gives a little bit more of a schmack. And this right here, this is just a Tearout Nova. It is a kind of multiband compressor that is also doubles of an EQ. It's kind of like a fab filter. I just did this for any like sweeps or anything if I'm doing some low cutting and like moving around the EQ just for the drums later, because there's a lot of things that you need to do to automate volumes and EQ curves and sweeps and things, so that especially when you're going into your build up, your mix is not getting too loud. If your build up is like minus 10 decibels and your drop in the rest of your song is like minus 20, minus 25, what happens when you're in your mastering phase and you're trying to compress stuff down, you're trying to make stuff loud, and the build up is hitting the top of the threshold and the rest of the song can't go louder because the build-up is already way louder than the rest of the song? Or worst case scenario, you squish the build-up so much to reach the volume level of the rest of the song that the build-up just sounds like garbage and the drop loses power because of it. And I've had this mistake happen more than once. Just go look at my remix that I did of Ray Volpe's track when I went to try to get into the Disciple remix competition. The leveling in the pre-master was just god awful, and I realize that now. But I still put it up because I was still proud of it. But so the drums, like I said, the kick just had a little bit of a saturator, and I just saturate the whole drum kit because it kind of glues it together a little bit, brings out the higher frequencies, brings out the sparkliness. Yeah, nothing too big on the hi-hats. I just got two hi-hats working here. This one right here. And then something that I use for my triplets, or like little interludes. As you can see, these are just samples that I use from sample packs. I don't really make my own hi-hats. These drums are also from a sample pack. I just don't find myself taking the time to make a lot of drums, but I have made them previously. If you've checked out my song Graveyard, I made all the drums for that except for the hats, I think. Yeah, I don't think I made the hats. I might have made the hats. I can't remember. I don't think I did. So you got this cool little part right here after the pitch down and the vocals. Let's move on to the vocals next. You got this little snap. I was really proud of the snap. I loved it because it accents the quietness and there's nothing happening. It's kind of like, all right, now we need to bring something in. Like I'm snapping to initiate the bass. Like I'm like it's time for the song to really kick into gear. So of course you got that snap in the vocals. Let's look at the processing on the vocals for just a minute. This vocal processing is very much essentially just the same as the ones that I pitched down. This is just pitched regularly with the vocals. Like I said, just pitched regularly. I got the frequency shifters right here to do a pitch up later in the song, and then for that little one right here. Don't ask me why I put 2 frequency shifters in. I legitimately cannot remember. But let's move from the vocals and the snap. Let's start putting in a little bit of the bass. Now this is where everything gets fun, right? Alright, so let's look at the bass here. Okay, well that sounded awful. So there's a pitch down effect on this bass going on right here. So you can hear it. I love it. I think it's great. I think it's a good little background ear candy element that accents the melody and accents the beat of the song. So, right. And that's something that you can play with. Let me go ahead and find it. You can play with it down an octave. And I do that in the song. I play with it, putting it down and up. So all that is, let's just look. I need to find it first. Little patch that I made. Of course, we're FMing from B. Got this filter right here, the PB12. Got that moving. Yep. So without the filter, it's just this. But if you hear it, it like shoots it forward just a little bit. If you put the filter on, I think it sounds nice. Just got your hyper dimension going on right here. Very, very slight EQ moving in the higher range. Combs filter going on. Automated, of course. If you ever like Combs filter without automation and things like that, I just feel like it makes the sound lose power. It's just, I just don't like it. Without Combs, yeah, Combs is a big part of the sound, but with this sound being in the background, I think it was an appropriate use of the Combs filter, in my opinion. Tube, I always automate my distortions, so when the sound is at its peak, the distortion is at its peak, and as the sound dies off, the distortion dies off. That's something very common you're going to find with a lot of producers. Chorus, it's just how I set up all my choruses in Serum, so delay 1 all the way to the left, delay 2 slightly up, so they're slightly offset from the left and right channels. Depth down, feed down, low pass filter all the way up so that you're getting the high end that you want. And then I just adjusted the mix to taste. Got the amount of stereo that I wanted. I didn't want this to sound to be mono, of course, because you got the vocals and the bass going mono and the drums. A little bit of a compressor right here. All right, now let's move on to the bass. Well, actually, I have some more processing over here on that sound. So just delay, some saturation, reverb, the imager, because I didn't want it too far into the stereo field, or else it would just be so wide that like the mix is just too wide, because that can definitely happen. And then I use the TDR Nova, put it on difference. So what that is it separates the mono from the stereo channels. So the left and the right is now separated from the mono channel on this sound, and I cut out the low end on the stereo channel, the left and right in the headphones. That's about it. This sub is pretty basic. Saturation, I got a compressor here, cutting out the muddy frequencies in the middle around the 300, 200, cutting some high end so I can accentuate the bass. And then in the actual patch, you got a sign right here. That's your main part of it. Another sign right here that's just up an octave. It produces a very, very slight kind of boost to it puts more frequencies into it so that when I saturate it, there's just even more frequencies. It's a fatter bass. And then I put this triangle waveform very, very softly. You can hardly even tell, but when you're making it, I could just barely feel it adding something. Tube distortion, compressors on a little bit for this one, because I wanted that crunchy feeling with the white noise that I added. So I compressed it there with that compressor. It was just technically just OTT. Yeah. So let's keep going. And you're going to hear these little interludes. This is a little right here. You hear this little sample that I made right here? It's just like a bass crackle. Kind of neat. Now this right here is interesting because this is just a sample of a door being like unlocked or locked. I took that sample right here. This is the regular sample. I took that same sample, I reversed it, put it before the regular part of the sample, and then I have this gun cocking, which if you remember from the very beginning of the song, if you listen to the song, go listen to the song. If you haven't listened to the song already, I don't have a gun to your head or anything, but I'm just saying you should probably go listen to the song before you look at the breakdown of the song. That's just my personal opinion. Anyway, so if you listen to the song, hear this in the very beginning. Wow, it's a gun cocking, right? And it goes into it. Well, guess what? I got some news for you. It's the same thing. It's the same gun. Listen to that. And just got minimal processing on this baby. Just some delay, reverb, just to kind of put it out there in the stereo field or put it out. So without it, it's not really, it's just adding some space, really. It's all it's really doing. And then, of course, right here, I've got some more vocal kind of ear candy, playing with the vocals a little bit. So. Now we get into the fun stuff. This is where we're starting to, like, go into the build-up. There you go. All right. So if you hear it here with the claps, you got this right here. This is the main clap. This is my power clap, as I like to call it. It's what's really driving it, really putting through the emotion. But then I got this clap that's not even being sent to my chain to be processed by anything. I've just turned it down, left it as is. So what it is, this is a more stereo clap. This softer, doesn't have as much power. Together, it adds a little bit of stereo to the clap. There you go. It's just very simple, but sometimes simplicity is what works. Now, this next thing right here, you're going to see what's mimicking the vocal line up here, and also on the vocal line right here during the drop. Or during the build-up, I should say. I copied the main vocal, pitched it down, put it underwards. Put it underneath the main vocal so it adds a little bit of beef. Yep. So what you're gonna hear, the thing that's mimicking, we've got this little ditty, let's call it that. Where is it? This right here, it's mimicking the vocal on top of it. So listen to this. It's just it's mimicking the vocal line. It's literally, quite literally, just a saw wave. I literally just called a melody back up. It's a sine wave, I meant to say. A sine wave, and something to give it a little bit of an 8-bit is a square wave. Where it gives a little bit of high end. Of course, the PP12 filter, one of my favorite filters in Serum. PP12 is going to make it more distorted. It's going to bring out some harmonics in the sound when you distort it and put distortion, saturation, and things on it later. So that's why I love these PP12. I just love to blow some certain frequencies out. I've got this envelope right here. So it's fast. I got this LFO right here. So that's fast, working on the frequency and the cutoff. Yeah, that's the only LFO that I have working. Of course, the hyperdimension. Putting it more to the left and right. As you can see right here, distortion. The distortion is, of course, following the curve. When it's at its peak, the distortion is at its peak, and when the sound from the synth is dying off, then the amount of distortion that's getting added is dying off as well. Adds more power immediately for this specific type of sound. Chorus is the same as I explained previously, just a taste. See my same setup that I really use, and a little bit of compression. Go over here. Got stereo. This is just for sweeps in the future. Reverb to put it where it needs to be. It's adding a little bit of reverb in the distance, and then I have this syn track right here doing delay and reverb. So that's what's giving it some space, filling up some space in the background. EQ right here, cutting out the low end, cutting out some frequencies. I think that's around 200 to 300 hertz that I didn't like. Put some soft limiting through the soft clipper right there. Got an ozone imager just to check where it was in the stereo field, just because I like to check. Right here, anything that's below the 0 to the -1. If you're going too far down there, then your mix can be way too wide, and when you're doing that, then you can start to represent or kind of hear some phasing issues. Good way to check for phasing is to take your mix. I have this already set up in all my templates. Have a plugin where you can turn it on, and it puts your whole mix into stereo, every single element. When you're listening to it that way, you can hear phasing, because phasing will be kind of like this weird like chorus effect. And it'll sound kind of off. So that's just that noise. Other than that, we've just got some basic strings. We've got a pizzicato orchestra going on in the center field, and then a violin left and a violin right. That's just got itself going to a reverb send to put a little bit of reverb to fill up some space. And then both the left and the right channels are going to a bus that is adding saturation on those strings, soft limiting, EQ to cut out the low end, and then ozone imager so it's not getting too wide. I very slightly put it more in the center. Pizzicato, I got a little bit of OTT because I wanted it. I wanted it to have that kind of brighter feeling. It also enhances some of the transients when you use OTT. Put it all the way in the center. This is all the way down. All the way in the center. Reverb. Again, just some space stuff so we can fill up some space. I'm trying to get better about using less elements, because I would just go completely overboard and have like 100, 150, 200 tracks in my song, and at the end of it, it's cracking and it's breaking, and I can't even open the project anymore, and it's so bad. Saturation, more EQ, cutting out some more low end, because even though I cut out, oh no, this is a different one, I forgot, whoops. Cutting out some low end, putting some reverb in there. Again, this one, yeah. So the last one before was just to put it, I think, in where I wanted it in the stereo field, and then this reverb was to add more space to it, or to fill up more space. So all together with that little distorted sine thing. Now with the vocals and the claps, got something that sounds like this. This build up, of course, is just the vocal chopped. I don't know why the vocal is like crunchy like that. Weird. So this is this regular pitch. I pitched the rest of it down so that it could get to the key of the song, which is D, for the build up. Did that. I got the sub building up. The sub is going up in pitch. And then right down here, I put the sub down in volume as we get towards the end. So you hear. Yeah, so as we're going through the build-up, you will hear that the sub gets turned down. Some of the main melody elements get turned down as they rise up. Again, so that we're keeping those levels down so that the levels aren't like spiking in the build-up compared to the rest of the song. So when it gets mastered later, then you're not having any issues with the mix clashing with the mastering, so that nothing feels squished and losing power. So yeah, I got the pizzicato in there, doing a little bit of a faster melody. I've got the distorted sines. I got the sub. Now let's look at the drums for a second. Those are building up, and then those levels get automated as well, so we're not spiking any of the levels. So as you see here, let's look at this a little bit. The snare is right here, the volume gets turned down and it raises in pitch, or not in pitch, but in volume. Right here, we've got a low pass going like a low filter sweep for the snare. So, of course, the hi-hats are going. Yep. Just for level's sake, I got these risers right here. One's a high, one's just a white noise, and one's just like a high little shrill thing. Yeah, I liked it. They're just samples. I just like them. They're pretty cool. There's something else I wanted to say. Oh yeah, right here. Very important. I have this EQ on the master of the track. Take a look at what it's doing. It's cutting out the low frequencies as it gets closer to the drop. So when the drop hits, it's like, hey, we're cutting out the bass. Now the drop hits, bang, here's the bass again. And then I do that in, I work with that with Ozone as well, with an imager. Oh geez, I'm trying to use my hotkeys to get back to where I need to be. All right. So here, I'm using the Ozone imager. It's making the mix go mono about 20 to 25%, I want to say. Of course, before the drop, when the drop hits, it gets more stereo, feels bigger, feels louder, all that stuff. So see it slowly going towards the center more. Hit about 20% on this one. Let's look at this pre-drop right here. This is just, of course, more vocal splicing. This is a sample that I made. I didn't make the sample. It was from a sample pack, of course. I'm pretty sure you've heard Virtual Riot use the same exact sample with a little bit of processing, but not like this. What I did with this, I took 2 instances of the same sample, very slightly altered the pitches of them so that they had this weird like warbly thing, distorted it, added a lo-fi effect to it, and then at the very end pitch shifted it so it pitch shifted down a whole octave so it feels like it's falling. See? And then I did some stuff with the frequency shifter to do some like warbly stuff that's in the settings. Very cool. All right, let's get into the drop now.
Drop.
All right, probably enough of that. If you've heard the song, like I've suggested, you'll know what the rest of the drop sounds like. Even though I essentially just played the whole thing. All right, you remember that sample from the very beginning that starts off the song? Well, here it is again. Just some filler on every downbeat of the drop, right? Even sometimes, if you're really paying attention, you can hear it. Before we do that, though, let's look at the drums here. So we switch to some hard, heavy hitting drums. What I'm doing here with these drums. So I've created another drum kit right here. I have essentially saturated the god-awful hell out of it. Put them in there, saturated the snare, did the same snare work that I did to the last snare, cutting off the low end, boosting where it thumps, putting it into a bus, and on that bus, I'm just saturating it, and then putting a Maximus on it to do more saturation and compression, like God, Jesus. So without that, it sounds like this. No, it's still powerful, but then with it on. Right, that's a little bit more powerful. I didn't even put these cymbals and stuff in a channel rack. I just didn't think that they needed to be in a channel rack. So this is what they sound like. It's a China and a crash. Right, and then you got this little buddy going down here. He went to a mixer track, so that I could put him with a little bit of reverb. The name of the game is filling space, guys. I mean, come on. You got to fill some space if you're a dubstep producer. If you're doing drops, I'm not saying it's bad. A lot of producers do drops that are kind of open, not full. But for what I'm doing here, which is very much more of like a Tearout, heavier dubstep style, you need to fill up some space to have it heavy hitting, to make it feel like there's some substance there. All right, to start off the drop, we have this right here. Right, automated some reverb here. This is a sample that I made. It's like a click. I got one that's where the sample is regularly, and I got another one, duplicated it, and put it down an octave. So this is with it, without. Right, adds a little bit of beef to it. All right, now this is what everybody really wants, right? The really big, beefy bass right here, right? Now this is very slowly pitching down right here at the end, like it falls. You can barely even hear it in the song. And then you hear that sound holding over. I just put a bunch of instances of, like one instance, but I did a lot of automation with Fruity Balance to cut that off. Yeah, even you can hear that reverb holding over. I didn't mind that. I just didn't want that. I didn't want that there. Oh, look, here it is. That sample again. A little bit of ear candy there. So let's look into the actual sounds we got going on here. This is already running way longer than I wanted it to be for a breakdown, but you know, it's fine. It's fine. Look at that. We got a crunch going on here, just a basic crunch. Keeping all the low end from it. It's got high end. It's missing a lot of low mids. We got low, we got high. We're missing some low mids. Mids in general. Saturating it. Putting a reverb on it. Again, space filling. Filling the space. Slowly but surely. Ozone emisser just to check where it is in the mix. And then this, again, is on the different... I think that's what it's called anyway. The difference, that's what it's called. Difference, so that it's only affecting the left and right channels in the stereo field, and I'm cutting out the bass. The patch for this, really simple. Let me, if I can find it. Oh, dude, Jesus. Yeah, I think it's this. Notch filter. Cutting out some of that low mid that you saw that was missing. Got this right here. FM from A. And of course this notch right here is doing that little I've also got this little in the matrix here linking the LFO2 to the master tune. Going 24, which is 2 octaves, dropping 22 octaves of pitch right at the beginning. Have that like going down from the top to the bottom, if that makes any sense. Adding some punch to it. Just a sine wave right here, adding to distortion. I love distorting sine waves, of course. I'm pretty sure you've already known this just from listening to this for a little bit. I have a whole distorted sine in the beginning for the melody. So this sine wave, another sine wave right here, up an octave in the Sam Speaks, which is doing an FM from A. That level is not being modulated. This is this one is up 2 octaves. And I got this little noise right here. Adding a little bit of crunch to it. Hyperdimension. Oh, look at that. There it is. The distortion being automated again. Why? Well, I've already explained it to you, so I'm not going to say it again. But, you know, you get the picture. It looks like I had course on for this, but I didn't want it to be that wide, so I turned it off. The wider I made it, the more it was going to mess with the bass, which is why I had that difference on the EQing for the left and right channels, because I wanted to make sure that bass was in the center, not in the sides, so we didn't have any phasing issues. And then just the compressor right here, of course. You know. All right, now let's look at the other section. Like, wow, yeah, this is essentially what's making that little bit like growly, lasery kind of sound. But God, it's weak, isn't it? Like it's going wow, you wow, you wow. So it's moving. It's giving me a little bit of movement to the drop, but it feels weak. But of course, with this, yeah, it feels a little bit bigger. So let's look at this very, very slowly. PP12 again. Wow, imagine that. One of my favorite filters. Used it again. Oh, look at that. A sine wave up 2 octaves this time. It's got bin being automated with this LFO2. Got the level of the white noise over here being... Sorry, my dog is like itching herself behind me. LFO modulating the bright white noise. This oscillator is not being modulated. EQ moving around the low end, putting some notches. Chorus. Yes, same way. Oh, look at that. Distortion is not being automated on this one. Amazing, right? Well, that's just because this is a static noise. It doesn't really have a peak. Should start off for the most part where it needs to be with the distortion, and it can just stay that way. There's no point in just making the distortion lessen at the end. I want it to be very, very powerful. The phaser, of course, is adding a lot to it. Giving some higher end, making some moves up in the top. Now, last but not least, we have one more piece to this very big bass, right? We got a top layer. We got a bottom layer. But if we come over here and we look at our span, we're missing some mids, right? So where do our mids come in at? Right here. That sounds absolutely hideous, right? And you'd be correct, because it also has a lot of high end to it. So much high end that I had to put this EQ down here, and I had to take off a lot of high end to it. Added some reverb. Oh, that is beautiful. It's, God, it is an onslaught to the ears. I'm just going to put this up here for you. I just don't even want to try explaining this one. This one is just a mistake. This one is just to fill some space and make it a bit chunkier. So that, and then we have a sub. No, we don't. We don't have a sub in this one because that's in the crunch, right? So all together, see if you can hear the most annoying noise and on demand in the sound. God, Jesus. Okay. It's adding more high end than it is mid. Okay, well, okay, well, anyway. So that's essentially what it is. I just arranged it in some different patterns here at the end for to sound differently. Okay, well, let's unmute everything. Oh, look at that. Look at that. That's right. We got this one thing happening right here. I didn't even name it in the channel strip. Oh, God. Without processing, it sounds awful. Yeah, EQ cutting out all that nasty low end, saturating it, putting some OTT, another EQ to cut off all the low end that the OTT and the saturation caused. Ozone imager here, just checking where it is in the stereo field. Compressor. Funny enough, this compressor got put on after I had already mastered it once. I mastered it once. I was like, it's making like this weird pumping effect when this lead comes in. So I went here, put the compressor on the lead more because I thought the lead was just jumping out way too much. The lead wasn't compressed enough. And then the reverb to put it. To add a little bit of space to it. And, you know, there you go. And just coming in here, something to start the new phrase. We're putting in a vocal here that I've sliced up. Same vocal from the beginning. Oh, there's that frequency shifter again. Now this right here. What's cool is you can go right up here, click chop. I can't remember which chopping
one that I use. You can pick one of these complex patterns, marching, repeating, time-based, and it will chop your whole sample into certain things. So I didn't hand do this at all. This is about optimizing workflow. I found a chopping feature that sounded like I wanted it to, and I used that. Put back in the lo-fi crinkling. Put the sub in here. Not the sub, the downlifter from the beginning. Put back in the stuff from the very beginning that started the song. White noise and a little bit of a sample to get us started. This is just like a saw wave that's been like has this pitch thing going on. Right? Cool. That's all it does to throw us into verse 2 of the song. Don't you just love that little kick rhythm right there? Nice. My cat is playing with the blinds. I swear, these animals. All right. So as you can see here, I had a lot of samples of things right here in the bottom. Those were just reversed guitars that I had put in, like single notes, reversed guitars. I accidentally deleted the sample off my desktop, so now it's not loading them anymore. So it's a good thing that I finished the song before I cleaned my desktop, because if not, then I would have lost that and I would have had to recreate it, and that's just boring. Cool. All right, so we got this right here. We're bringing back in the pizzicatos. Same processing as in the beginning. The vocals are the same processing. We're adding in this little eliminate ya sound. Not even going to a channel rack. I didn't even bother with it. This little effect right here with the drums too, with the kick, you can mess with the end knob right here. And that is going to create this like, plays with the dynamics a little bit, plays with the volume. So it, puts a little bit of spice into it. Cool. The hi-hats here, we're just got one's regular volume, copied it, pasted it, put the second one down a little bit in volume. As you can see here, I reuse a lot of stuff, or I try to reuse a lot of stuff to keep the number of my tracks that I'm creating down. So you got white noise build up and then the white noise drop. I just don't find it necessary for every single part of your song trying to bring in like 4 different risers, 3 different downlifters, and you're doing all these like 16 different impacts. At the end of the day, after you've done all that, you've got like 50 tracks of just impacts, risers. I mean, that's not something that listeners are going to really hear unless you are a producer yourself. It's something that should be there to like fill space, add impact, right? Maybe have a few that are different so that you're just not using the same 2 or 3, obviously. Trying to create things that are a little bit different, but this was a little bit of a fun piece that I did, so I didn't use as many as I would in some things that are longer that I do or more serious, like the upcoming EP that I have been talking about on my Instagram. You should go visit my Instagram, probably link in the description, but if it's not nobody_project nobody, you should go follow me there. Of course, also on Twitter, SoundCloud, Anyway, let's look at this. We got a little vocal going again. Okay, what happened to the bass here? Ah ha ha, there it is. Alright, Like I said, the guitar samples I accidentally deleted. They're in the real song, the actual song that I've posted on SoundCloud and YouTube. Hint, go listen to it. Look at this. Oh yeah, I forgot about this completely. Look who has made another appearance. Right, we're establishing musical motifs, bringing in elements of the song throughout the whole song so that it makes you remember parts of it and not forget, so that the song is not forgettable, right? There it is again. Great. Just so you know. Yeah, take a look out for it when you listen to the song again for the 15,000th time, right? Because you love it so much. That's right. Yep. All right. So we got this, and we got this down sample again. Same little piece. Right. Same little patch we've been doing the entire song. This is just a section of the first drop that I have cut up. Section of the first drop that I have cut up and added a sweep to. Right, very nice. And then of course we're doing the same stuff with the mastering, with the width, turning the width down to get more mono, and then when the drop hits, bam, your stereo. Same with the right here, the frequency, cutting out the low frequencies to make the drop feel like it hits harder. Look at that. Amazing. More musical motifs, right? The sample makes a comeback. Same drums, same cymbals as the first drop. I got this going on. A little bit of a riser after every 8 bars. Right? Just something to add a little bit of spice. Oh my gosh, can you believe this? I know you're not going to believe this, but look at the sample that's made another comeback. Musical motifs. Right? Once is a mistake, twice is a coincidence, 3 times is on purpose. That's what my music professor told me. My cat is still on the blinds. Just like I'm still on the fact that you should go listen to this song right now. She agrees. My cat agrees. I hope you heard her. Okay, get off the blinds. Yeah, so I got this little thing here going right here, enforcing the beat of the drop, which is this. Right, got this little thing enforcing the beat. It's just the sample from the very beginning, with the first drop, the little click that I made, with more processing. Now we got the talk without the little click that I made from the first drop, with different processing. Right, just adds a little bit of pizzazz to it, you know. Let's look here at the voice in this. Why is the sub to the left? That's not a sub. Okay, never mind. Where is it? Here it is. We got a sub, and we got a talk bass, and then we got a backup talk bass to give it a little bit of girth, you know. Of course, with that little piece right there. Okay, what am I doing? All of my everything is getting lost. The name of the game is also layering. There's a lot of names to the game, and this is probably about the name of the game number 500,673. You know, let's look at this original talk bass. I'm not going to go over the girthy part of it that I've added. I'm just going to go over the actual, like, just regular. Right, without processing, sounds disgusting. It's got too much low end if there's already a bass somewhere. What did I name this thing? Sustain growl. This is definitely not a sustain growl. This I'm using a PN12 on this one, which is a little bit of a notch right here, and then a notch upwards and a notch downwards. If you really want to have freedom and the ability to make your basses talk using filters, I use the filter here. I use an EQ filter here. Sometimes I'll even use the filter down at the bottom as well. If you're trying to use voices, make your basses have life, bringing voice into them, putting dynamics, not dynamics, harmonics. Well, I guess dynamics too. Dynamics, harmonics, bringing life to them. it's good to use the filters in your synth that you're using. This one over here is up an octave. This is down an octave. This bend minus is being modulated by this, as is a lot of other things. And then we're doing FM from B on the oscillator A. Of course, what happens if we move things down the octave? You know. And if you put this back up, it doesn't sound cool anymore. So, and then that also doesn't sound cool. So, hyperdimension, of course, adding some space, stereo, just a little bit. That's automated because I don't want it always in the sense it's supposed to be centered, so it's giving you that driving feeling. I want it in the center, but then it'll modulate outwards at the beginning of the wub wub, as you would like to call it. Course, same settings as I did. EQ, standard. Distortion, I'm not automating it this time. I'm not actually sure why I didn't automate it this time. You've caught me. You found my deathly secret that I don't always automate the distortion when I should. But, you know, I probably just got distracted and forgot. You know, happens sometimes, but it still sounds great. I don't think it would have added a ton to it, probably. Might have actually over-distorted it. So, yeah, we got those. Sub bass, it's just, I'm not really going to go over that unless you guys, if anybody wants me to make a specific tutorial about how I make sub basses, then I'm down for that. But as of right now, got this little screech in the back, right? This is just filling up space. Listen to the screech in full context. Just filling up some space. Anyway, drums the same. That bass, anything that I haven't went over. Yes, this right here. Yeah, here it is. Nice. All right. I named this drop to sub because this was originally going to be the sub for the second drop, but yeah, so it's just got this, and then I've got a pitch here. Yeah, so I'm putting the pitch there. So it's just, as you can see here, the volume, as you, like you can see right here, that the volume is not going to remain consistent because I've got a triangle down here, I've got one up here, down here, and up here. Make sure that you're adding, like, interesting volume things. So you're not always like, right? You don't want the listener to be like, oh my god, he's just doing 4/4 time the whole time. It's just da 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 da. No, you want to go. I just clipped my mic. I really apologize for that. So what this is here is going da 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 da. Right? It's adding a little bit of pizzazz, a little bit of volume. Da 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 da. Then you can do a flip side of that and do the accent, as we call it in music, of course, on the downbeats, which is beat 1 and beat 3. No. Yeah, beat 1 and beat 3, and beat 2 and beat 4 you're off beats, but beat 1 and beat 3, so you could do that. You go da 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 da, right? And on the flip side, like I'm known here, you can go da 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 da, right? It's just an accented type thing. I probably just made myself sound really stupid while I was doing that, but whatever. You know, I'm just trying to help people out in music right here. Of course, modulating the PN12 filter over here adds a little bit of pizzazz to it. This right here is actually going to the coarse pitch on oscillator A, giving you that sharp ping at the very beginning. So it's like, hey, I'm here, I'm a sound, listen to me. You know, go team. EQ is the same as I've been doing. Like I said, use those filters. Use those filters if you're trying to do some personality in the basses. All right, hyperdimension, distortion, automated it again for the win. Chorus the same as the beginning. Flanger is set up. Oh my god, it's like set up so slightly like you can barely hear it. It's very slight, and then just a compressor. Everything I've done over here. Compressor, cutting out some things that are lame. not a compressor, but an EQ, cutting out some pieces that I didn't want. This is a stereo sound, but it's got bass in it. I wanted the bass, so I'll use the difference feature in TDR Nova, cut out the channels from the left and right, or cut out the bass from the left and right channels in the stereo, made it mono. Add some reverb. Yeah, anyway. All right, let's keep going. Working with a little bit of things that I made here, some samples. I just called it Vomit Fall. This is like a vomit bass. I don't know if you guys can hear this, but so I did some sounds here with my sample, kind of like a vomit style. Is it vomit step? I think. Oh no! Don't look at the Dead Space audio. No, my future plans for music, they've been foiled. Maybe I don't know. But here's that, right? And then we got this right here, a glitch. Another sample that I made, but I just spliced it up there, right? And you got this really big pause on beat 1, right? It tricks you into thinking, it's the downbeat, right? You know, we've been in this for, 4 measures already. Bam, we're gonna go to the downbeat, and it's just like, no, we're not. And then we come back in on beat 3. It's amazing. It's quite amazing. Yeah. Let's go on to the second half of that drop. Same sample that I used over there, just pitched up and put more back into the back of the space. So listen to the first one. It's more present in the front, in like the space field, and this one is more pushed into the back. This right here, we're changing up our rhythms with our talking bass. Now, you tell me if you can find the musical motif. Another one that we put in. Like I said before, we got musical motifs. A lot of really big musicians, the greatest musicians, Shostakovich, Mozart, Beethoven, is it Franz Schubert? Or I don't know his first name, just Schubert. I'm just going to call him. Big musicians will do motifs, so that's things that tie the whole song together. You'll hear it at the first 10 seconds, you'll hear it 2 minutes in the song, you'll hear it 4 minutes into the song, you're like, I remember that, I've heard that before in the song. That is what you want to create in your track. It's just small motifs. Right here, this small motif that you're not even catching like consciously unless you're really listening to the drum pattern. This section right here in the drums is a throwback to the first drop in the first 2 beats. Right? So let's go back to the first drop and listen to that. Right? We just don't have that click, but we have the same drum beat. And then also, to further reiterate on that motif, we're adding back something from the first drop, hinting back to the first drop, which is the growl. Okay, it's not playing, but whatever. This right here, this growl. And this time it's just with the bass and everything. Yep, got a little bass right here, doing the same rhythm that we were doing in here. I automated this bass to go with what the talk bass was doing. Right, so take out this. Right. Put that over here with the sub. Right. And then this. You remember that little ting from the very beginning? Musical motif, right? Kind of a musical motif. This is a little bit different, so the listener might not pick up on it. So this from the beginning. with the delay on it, I have just brought over here reversed. Here's our little sample from the beginning again. Or wait, I guess I decided not to use that. White noise fall, and then that little reversed little tap, the clave type thing, and the bass. And we are all finished. Thank you guys so much for watching. That was just an overview of everything. If there's anything that you want a specific tutorial of in this video, I'll be more than happy to go through and do that for another video. I am a musician, of course. I write music, but at the same time, if anybody needs help in producing, then I'd love to help you guys. I've only been doing this for about 2 years, producing dubstep music and things like that. But if I can help anybody anywhere, if you think that I'm worthy of helping you, then absolutely leave a comment, send me a message or something, and I will absolutely get on that. You can send me a message on my my Twitter or my Instagram or my SoundCloud. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I really do appreciate it. And I will see you all either in the next release or in the next video. Peace.